Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about idiot pedestrians. You know, motorists, I'm not one of them, but motorists sometimes get really agitated at cyclists. Tend to disagree because cyclists are out there to train, and they're out there to, you have to use the roads in order to train unless you're a mountain biker, and it doesn't take much for a motorist just to kind of make a small movement to avoid the cyclist under most circumstances. And you know, the other day I fortunately just missed a pedestrian, and he was doing this. He was sort of looking straight ahead of him because I was supposed to see him, and I didn't. I just didn't notice him because he just sort of stepped onto the road unexpectedly. And so I hooted at him to basically say, "Cuckoo, wake up, I could have killed you." And he ignored that as well. Now, in a world where over 1 million people die of car accidents every year, seriously, I mean, that just puts pale to wars and some diseases as well. 1 million people. In South Africa, it's around 12,000 people die a year.
The force will be with you, always.
You know, that's something comparable to the crime rate in this country. And that's preventable. You know, crime arguably is less preventable, and yet we see, you know, the way people die of car accidents as normal or just a fact of life. I don't think it is. It's not a fact of life. But some people's attitude, you know, the way they overtake you in a road that's got a lot of speed bumps. It's just like those speed bumps are there so that you drive slower, and then someone overtakes you on that road. It's just really, really crazy. Then another thing, should people be buying tickets to the 2010 World Cup? I haven't seen any stadiums that are complete. I would imagine the one in Bloemfontein is, because that was sensible. That was a stadium that was already constructed, which was just really enhanced, right? But the stadium in Durban, for example, and there are several others where work hasn't been completed and the workers are on strike, and then there's not money available. So, you know, I suppose one could buy some tickets, but I think you've got a fair chance of buying a ticket and finding that the game there will have to be moved to a different stadium. Now, you got a ticket bit and you're in Durban, but the game has now been moved to Johannesburg. What are you going to do? I'd be a little bit circumspect about buying tickets too soon ahead of this World Cup. I still think it's a little bit shaky, the whole proposition. Philip de Franco made a comment about Hitler having bad eating habits, and you know, is this the worst? You know, is this an indicator that something's wrong with Hitler? You know, is this the worst thing we can sort of add to his list of faults? But I do think it's interesting to have really bad eating habits. You don't really care about the people around you. You don't care what opinion they have of you. You know, one's being a bit narcissistic. You want to enjoy your food, but you don't really care what that looks like. You don't care you know, about things like manners, and manners is really all about caring. You know, you care about the way you are perceived and the way that you treat other people, and Hitler obviously didn't. He only cared about what other people thought if that meant they thought he was great, right? He was a vegetarian, which is quite interesting. It says something about the idea of a pacifist weak ass who's a vegetarian, doesn't it? Another thing is the herd mentality I experienced today. I did a triathlon earlier today, and the swim course is a particular case where you're forced to navigate often because you are level with the water and you have buoys at various spots, and you have to change direction as a matter of course. And depending on where you are in the field, you need to really sight navigate. You need to look up above the water, which costs you time and effort, to see where you are. And with swimming, the moment you put your head down, you know, you have the possibility of one leg kicking harder than the other, one arm. In other words, that you're going to go slightly off course. And what often happens is that a number of swimmers actually go off course. And the reason for this is one swimmer is basically gambling that the other swimmer knows where he's going. And it really happens often that a number of swimmers go completely off course, sometimes way off course. And today what was interesting was we rounded one buoy, which was it's basically a L-shaped buoy, one sort of long sausage and another long sausage, and a couple of these swimmers went round the buoy and followed the sort of trajectory of the buoy, as though the one line was taking you towards the next buoy, but in fact it wasn't the case. And so you had a couple of these swimmers going right completely off course, at quite a sharp angle. I would say 45 degrees even, which is a lot, which just indicates that no one was really looking where they were going. And I think that's really what happens a lot. It's because our intelligence is narrow-minded. We're really clever, but we're not doing the ordinary things like checking for ourselves to verify, is this correct? It just takes one look to see, are you on course? And this is one of the reasons why we're in such a mess in terms of the financial crisis. No one really thought to check the wisdom of buying a house, buying property that this couldn't, the value of this house or property couldn't appreciate infinitely. And I was one of the people who said one of the reasons was I couldn't afford it at a certain point, but obviously if you take out a loan, then theoretically you could afford it. But I read books by like Robert T. Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all these people were saying, in this world you can make a lot of money by going into debt and then buying property. They said the world is configured this way, and there's one proviso, and that proviso was that property markets would continue to gain value. But they said the chance of this not being the case is virtually zero, and that virtually zero is a depression scenario, which is where we're headed. And it pays to sort of take note of that one little requirement that has to be met for your whole investment, your whole mentality to be no longer true. It pays just to pay a little bit of attention to that, because when that becomes reality, your scenario that you've now invested so much in becomes fantasy. So when I was a teenager, I used to say intelligence is narrow-minded, meaning if our focus isn't with insight and with wisdom, and when I'm speaking about wisdom, it's just coming up to see where one is, instead of having a herd mentality. It makes a world of difference. And the world has become very intelligent, but extremely dumbed down in terms of its herd mentality, in terms of just failing to pay attention. Thank you for listening.